What up, people? Back in the house with the GRP, and once again it's the mini me bringing you today's video, and today is going up hopefully a few hours before what is going to be unquote the biggest heavyweight boxing fight this year on paper, which is annoying a lot of people, but I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on it and let you know why I think there might be a bit of an upset today, and why a lot of people, especially in the boxing community more than anywhere else, are really overlooking Fury's opponent. So, as we all know, in the next few hours over in Saudi Arabia, there is the heavyweight boxing match for a non-official heavyweight boxing title. Well, they've made one up for this fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, otherwise known as Le Predator. Now, for those that are tuning in and going, what? He ain't got a chance in hell to knock out Fury. I'm gonna tell you why I think there might be an upset today, and quite a big one. Now, obviously I'm coming to you guys on a podcast which has 2 other members, one of which is an ex-professional heavyweight boxer who has worked and sparred with the likes of every heavyweight contender you can think of in the last 20 years. In fact, if you go back to when Larry first started out, I could name a boxer that he hasn't sparred with. It's very, very hard to find one. He came up at the same time as Fury, and Larry would tell you, and rightfully so, that by all accounts, Ngannou has no chance in hell winning this fight. Now, if we're going to talk about the general basics, ringmanship, no. Reach, no. Footwork, no. Boxing ability, no. Punch combination, no. And then just down to being tested in a boxing ring, no. Francis loses in every single facet. But where does he actually have the potential to upset people? I'm going to go for a little bit of background. Now, I've been an Ngannou fan since he hit the MMA scene. But what some people tend to forget is where Francis first came from. Now, Francis, for those that don't know, the general boxing crowd out there, Francis started off as a boxer. So when Francis was only, I think it was like 6 years old, he wanted to become a fighter. His dad was a street fighter back in Cameroon. His parents divorced, and by the time he got to 10, he was literally working in sand mines to make money for his family whilst living with his aunt. At that time, he said he wanted to basically move away from getting involved with gang culture and being a street fighter like his father, but wanted to be a professional boxer. So that was his first passion. He didn't step foot into a boxing ring, I think it was until he was 22. At 22, he stepped foot into a boxing class, but couldn't afford to train. He then decided, after working in the sand mines for how many years since the age of 10, he then got on a rowboat from Cameroon and crossed the border over to France. Now, that in itself is a Herculean feat. This is a man that came from a divorced family, living with his aunt, was working at the age of 10 in sand mines, then got himself on a rowboat and literally rowed over the fucking ocean to France, okay? Got to France, was imprisoned for basically, crossing the border illegally for 2 months. He then got out of prison, was homeless, living on the streets, not like a case of, he knew people there, he knew no one there, lived on the streets just so as he could find a way into a boxing gym. Then he came across an MMA gym where they have boxing classes. That's where obviously he met his first trainer, whose name I always forget, I have written it down over here somewhere, but found Lopez. So he met Lopez, opened an MMA gym over in France, and from there, he initially wanted to continue his boxing training. But it was Fernando that said to him, well, hold on, you can make a quicker route by going to MMA, MMA road, because you've got all the physical attributes in heavyweight, because heavyweight 9 times out of 10 in MMA, they're not always the most physically skilled when you go down the weight divisions. And if you've got punch power, being a heavyweight in MMA is a great asset to you, because you don't see as much grappling in the heavyweight division as the other divisions. So he steered Francis towards that. Now, Francis didn't want to take that route. Boxing was his passion, that's what he wanted to do, that's what he was training in from the age of 22. But when he got 26, no, you're gonna do MMA. So he took Fernando's, his tutelage on board and his advice on board, went into MMA. He was in MMA for literally, I think it was no more than 2 years? So from the age of, not even that. So a year of MMA training, 1 year of MMA training, had his first professional fight. He then fought for 3 years in MMA, literally 3 years. 2 years. 2 years he fought in professional MMA. His first fight, 5 fights. He then gets drafted straight into the UFC. Okay? So this is a guy that was boxing first, started to cross-train in MMA for 1 year, got onto the MMA scene, won his first 5 fights, and then goes into the UFC. Now let's just have a quick look and remind ourselves of what Francis accomplished in the UFC after only doing MMA for 2 years in total. First fight is a second round knockout, okay? Second fight, TKO against Curtis Blades. Third fight, TKO, first round. Fourth fight, first round submission. Fifth fight, first round knock TKO against Andrei Arlovski. That's not someone to be disrespected. Andrei Arlovski was a legend in the sport, as it always is MMA. After Andrei Arlovski, he then comes through and dismantles one of the best K1 kickboxing fighters in the UFC. We're talking Extreme champion, ex-Strikeforce champion. This guy was a behemoth in K1. And we're talking about the Reem Alistair Overeem. And he literally nearly removed his head from his body. He took him out with such a devastating uppercut that people thought he nearly killed him. He dropped Alistair Overeem and he fell like a tree to the earth, and it was horrific to see, okay? After knocks out Alistair Overeem, he then goes on and he's fighting against Stipe for the belt. Now Stipe was a Golden Gloves boxing champion in the UFC, also a wrestler as well. Now, when he lost that fight, people tend to forget how Ngannou lost that fight. He didn't prepare for a 5-round fight. He went in there, some would say arrogantly, and prepared for what he thought was going to be a quick knockout of Stipe Miocic. Stipe is not built that way. And Ngannou soon found out that he didn't have any wrestling behind him. He didn't have the cardio behind him. And that one punch knockout power wasn't going to last more than 1 round. And if Stipe could avoid that, which Stipe did, luckily he didn't take anything flush from Ngannou, and then he managed to literally ragdoll him for the remaining 4 rounds and beat him on a decision. He then went on and fought Derek Lewis. Now, everyone will say to you, the fight between Ngannou and Derek Lewis was a snooze fest. Literally because they stood toe-to-toe and no one wanted to trade. Derek was really apprehensive to fight, and it was almost like Ngannou just didn't know how to fight anymore. He stood there, and both of them were heavily criticized for the performance. But Ngannou lost that fight on a decision, when even Derek Lewis wouldn't even put up his hand in the fight. Derek Lewis got given, you know, the nod as the winner, but he refused to put up his hand because even he said this wasn't a fight. We didn't fight. So then Ngannou goes away, changes his camp, tries to get his mindset right. Again, hasn't lost a fight apart from Miocic on decision because of his wrestling background, and didn't get hurt against Lewis. Both of them barely fought. He then comes back and he fights against, what was the next fight? He comes back after Lewis and he fought against Curtis Blades for a second time. And again, he knocks Curtis Blades out, this time in the first round. Okay, so the first time he fought Curtis Blades, knocked him out in the second round. This time he knocks Curtis Blades out in the first round. And Curtis Blades was the feared opponent in the UFC heavyweight division. After Curtis Blades, he then knocks out, and this is an argument that he did, but he knocks out Cain Velasquez. Now, there was the controversy of Cain's knee giving out during the fight, but Cain Velasquez was, up until that point, the greatest heavyweight in the UFC. First round finish. Now, whether the knee became inhibited by what Francis did before the fight, or whether it was an injury he was bringing into the fight, he lost by the first round. After that, he then knocks out Junior Dos Anjos. Again, one of the most feared heavyweight ex-champions in the UFC. Knocks him out in the first round, or TKO's first round. He then comes back and he fights a kickboxer called Junior Rosenstruck, who had 76 pro kickboxing fights, 76 wins in kickboxing, okay? Was a World Grand Prix kickboxing champion. He knocked him out in 20 seconds. 20 seconds. To the point that we all thought Rosenstruck's knees broke the way he fell backwards. He floored him so quickly, it was like being hit by a Mack truck, right? Then finally after Rosenstruck, he gets his rematch against Stipe. Now, when this fight happened against Stipe Miocic, we all thought, okay, what difference has Francis made? It's been 3 years since the first fight, Francis's first loss. What differences has Francis made? What change did he make in his camp? The boy learned quickly. He worked for those 3 years, but the difference in performance from the first fight against Stipe to this fight, there was a moment during the fight where he sprawled in the first round, and I literally called my friend Daniel and I said, Stipe's lost. Francis wasn't a wrestler, but he sprawled with so much ease when Stipe went for a single leg, and then came back up and bounced back up so quickly, and his cardio is different. By the second round, I was very, very scared for Stipe. And then lo and behold, what happened? Francis caught him clean. And again, just like when he fought against Alistair Overeem, we all thought he'd kill Stipe. When Francis connects, it's devastating. We're talking Deontay Wilder punch devastating, okay? Hasn't lost the fight, really. I would argue that the first Stipe fight, he just gassed out and just got wrestled for 4 rounds. And if it would standing up, he could potentially beat him. Derek Lewis, both of them didn't fight. After Stipe, he then comes back and he fights Cyril Gane. Now, what a lot of people don't tend to remember is, or some people don't even know, when he fought Cyril Gane, his knee was basically torn. He had to have surgery before the fight, and he put it off. He didn't have the surgery until after the fight, but he needed knee surgery before the fight. Now, for anyone that knows martial arts, if your knee is inhibited in any way, you're not able to rotate the right way. You're not able to put as much punch power in. You're not able to literally employ the game you want to employ in that fight. And Francis had to wrestle him. And Francis won the match unanimously by wrestling Cyril Gane. Okay? Barely threw a strike. Then what did Francis do after this? Then he ended his relationship with the UFC after a lot of, tumultuous back and forths about contract negotiations. And the UFC being the way it is, a lot of us know the way the UFC is for those that follow the UFC. And he apparently drops the bag. Everyone calls him out. Conor McGregor calls him out. I dropped the bag. You've got Dana White calling him out saying, wash your hands of Francis now. He goes and signs a multi-million deal with PFL, Premier Fight League, of the upcoming mixed martial arts promotions. Not only does he sign a deal, he gets put onto the board, the advisory board for athletes to advocate for fighter pay and better treatment. He also gets put on as the chairman for PFL Africa, the first MMA promotion to go over and set up in Africa. He then also advocates and secures $2 million minimum for any opponent that fights him, to make sure that the people that are fighting him, that they get enough respect, that they're paid well in the event that that's their last fight, which sometimes out of 10 it probably could be. So we've got a guy who wanted to be a boxer from a young age, coming from poverty, crossing the ocean, living homeless, being told to go into MMA when he doesn't want to go into MMA, doing the best in the world in MMA for a very, very short space of time while he's there, now crossing over back to where he started in boxing, and he's got none other than Mike Tyson in his corner. Not only that, he also had the great Mr. Atlas working with him a few years ago on basics. Now, everyone's gonna go to me, oh yeah, but Damien, mate, have you seen the videos of his pad work? Oh, it's atrocious. Is it though? Is it though? I ask all of you, if you've got the time between now and the fight, to go back and look at all of these open workouts for all of these UFC fights. He punched faster, his combinations are more smooth, his technique was better. All we've seen come out of the camp is what looks like shoddy combinations. Really bad understanding of how to throw, an uppercut, where his guard is, how he drops. Not a great punch output when we know how devastating his punches are. Recorded on record as having the hardest punch and being the heaviest hitter on the planet, on record. Is it harder than Deontay Wilder? We won't know yet. So I would argue that the current footage has been released of him actually doing pad work with Tyson and with his trainers. I don't think that's them showing him what he can do. I sincerely believe that. The other thing I'm going to argue for, and what people tend to forget, Tyson has been, in all of these fights with Deontay Wilder, dropped. His very first fight, obviously he came back from a hell of a change in his life. His life is spiraling downhill from depression and weight gain and everything else. So to see him come back and fight Deontay Wilder in a 12-round war was nothing but, heroic and impressive. But he still got put down in the 12th round, and then he counted out. Second fight, he demolishes Wilder. Comes in at his second career weight heaviest of 273 pounds, and he demolishes Wilder. Third fight, Wilder drops him twice. Now, Wilder at his career heaviest was 238 pounds. When he fought Fury in the first fight, when he dropped him, he was 217 pounds, or 212. Third fight, I think he was 238, and from Fury was 277. So he's never fought anyone with punch power, really, the devastating punch power of Wilder, above 240 pounds. Francis has trouble cutting below 260. The UFC weight is 265. Francis has weighed in against Fury yesterday at 272 pounds to Fury 277. It's a 5 pound differential. Now, yes, there's the boxing acumen, there's the ring generalmanship, there's the ability to, just control the fight, which Tyson has in spades. Sorry about that. My alarm went off. There's the ability to control the fight, which he has in spades. But how good is Tyson's chin going forward? Is there going to be that one lucky shot that manages to get through his guard when he's showboating off the ropes, which we know what Tyson's going to do? He's out in Riyadh. He's got the world watching him. He's going to want to showboat. He's going to want to show the boxing world, hey, look at me making this guy a complete fool. Look at me doing the Ali shuffle. Look at me play off the ropes. He's going to want to do that. But is there going to be a moment in this fight where he doesn't give Francis as much credit as he should and he gets caught? Now, I'm not saying he's going to get knocked out straight away, but this is a guy who on record has the hardest punch. This is a guy who people are, in a way rightly so, counting out and being harshly critical against. But they're also completely, forgetting all the work this man has done. They're forgetting the kind of very clever tactics that are being employed during what footage is being let out. They're forgetting what can happen at heavyweight. Heavyweight is not every other ranking in boxing. It's not. It's not welterweight, where you can get, Sean Porter and, let's say, Sean Porter and Errol Spence in a ring, and they can go at it for 12 rounds and not get knocked out. This is a fight where the fight can end in the first round because of the amount of power these men are throwing around. Again, Francis has devastating knockout power. I'm not talking about he's going to throw 5 or 6 or 7 shots at you in combinations and wear you down to be knocked out. He hits you like an atom bomb. That's what Fury's coming up against. Now, I'm not saying that Francis is going to go in there and win, but I have a very, very big gut feeling that come the 8th round, we're going to see something. Potentially a stoppage. I think Fury is going to possibly showboat a bit too much. He's going to want to show the crowd the boxing skill. He's going to look to the audience. He's going to do the dance. He's going to do the Ali shuffle. He's going to show what he can do. And then he's going to get caught. Now, don't get me wrong. It could be 12 rounds of Fury punching Ngannou's head off. Literally using it as a punch bag and not being caught once. That could happen. But I think Francis is being incredibly underestimated in this match. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Ngannou fight. If you guys have seen it, there's so many freaking boxing Hall of Famers there at the moment. I saw a photograph earlier where you've got everyone from Larry Holmes, Manny Pacquiao, like everyone's over there right now watching this fight. I mean, even Eminem flew out of Royster 5'9" in the night to watch this fight. So I would love to be in Saudi Arabia watching this fight right now. But, is it going to be the fight everyone thinks is going to be a complete, shutout and Fury walks away with it? 99% positive. There's that 1% chance. And I'm holding on to that 1% that Francis is going to shock the world. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Don't be too alarmed if the Usyk fight falls through. It's a possibility, especially boxing politics right now. But yeah. Any thoughts, feelings, drop the comments down below. Larry's probably watching this right now going, Damien, what are you doing? We talk about boxing profession on this channel. You're thinking Francis is going to win? I don't know why I've made Larry sound like a chav from Essex, but there we go. But yeah, Larry, I apologise, but hopefully you've taken some of what I said on board. Not agreed with it, but yeah, that's my 2 cents. This has been Damien Ashley from the Gym Rat Pack, and if you're watching the fight, enjoy it, and we'll catch you soon. Cheeky ass wink, I don't know why I did that.